we're going to talk about a man who died at the age of 37, only painted for about 7 or 8 years of his life, and becoming a painter was a discussion that he had with his brother, and he thought, well, might as well do something, because everything else I did in my life failed. And that is the truth. So, this, my first image, it is not a Van Gogh, I promise you. This is actually a painting by Banksy, who is now making millions out of his art. And he's supposed to be incognito, but you can find him on any of the web pages that you want, and these pictures are selling at 20,000 at the time, pounds. But like I said, let's start proper. Proper. What is that proper indeed? With something very joyful. Huddersfield and Van Gogh to me are absolutely synonymous. I came to England at the age of 12. I spoke English. I had 2 words. One was door and the other was window. Why I knew those 2 words I don't know, but that's how I started learning my language. And the learning happened in this little street, school on the right, Crow Lane School, Mills Bridge. Not a place you want to see, really. It's going downhill because there's no more industries anymore. But at Crow Lane, I remember going to headmaster's office with somebody who spoke English, interpreting for my father, and we waited in the headmaster's room. And in the headmaster's room, there was this. And it blew my mind. At the age of 12, I fell in love with this picture, and it's not another picture. Van Gogh painted 3 or 4 of this view. It's this one with the washerwomen. I was absolutely flabbergasted. And I remember seeing a gas fire for the first time ever, and the smell of a gas fire. And that goes together for me with these 3. Later on, I thought, well, great, Huddersfield's got this art library, the reference library. I used to go there, not for the art, it's for the naked ladies in the art books. I shall be on about these books later, because what you do get in those books are pictures of Van Gogh taken in the 50s, printed in the 50s, when the colour of the pictures was more or less true. The colour every year on these pictures is now disintegrating. So remember that when you see a picture of a famous artist like Van Gogh and say, well, it's not as good as I say it is. It's supposed to be glowing and it's not. Well, it did glow at one time. So Huddersfield and Crow Lane, like I said, this is weird. I'm not supposed to get a black between every single one. I'll probably use this system now. So we're going to look at a guy called Vincent van Gogh, and it's a portrait of a soul in torment, indeed a soul in torment. He's got a very strange history, that lad. Why aren't I showing this in? Bear with me. My view in. View. I just have to surf. The area of southern Netherlands, or Holland if you like, is the area where he grew up and he spent most of his informative years. And the place of his birth is Zundert. Oh, Piotr, I'm in trouble.
Can be the sound. Do you need the sound anymore?
No. Pardon? There's, I mean, view and presenter view. Where do you find the presenter view? A slideshow, I know. See it? It is presented here. And it is. We're going forward. It's not moving there. Apologies for this technical glitch. We've had so many cables regarding, normally as you know it just works perfectly. This morning we've been trying to get the sound and the picture together. It will take a second. Yes, it's working. 30th of March, the last day of March of 1852, to a humorless pastor and his wife was born a son. Before he was born, the name was known. He was going to be called Vincent William van Gogh, after the father's father. So the boy's grandfather's name was on the boy. It's not all good news because, unfortunately, the boy was born dead. Now, exactly a year later to the day, a boy on the 30th of March, last day of March, 1853 this time, a baby boy was born. And he is going to be called Vincent William van Gogh, after his paternal grandfather. Unfortunately, the boy was always looked on as the spare, the one before could have been better, would have been better, would have behaved better, etc., etc. And this really played on the mind of our Vincent van Gogh. Altogether, there'll be 5 Vincent van Goghs I'll be telling you about in this story, and we heard about 3 of them, the Van Gogh granddad and the 2 little boys born in March 52 and 53. That boy it's not working here properly. The boy was taciturn, lonely, misbehaved, very quiet. He could have been autistic as well. He could never do anything right for his dad, but in his little life, he did show one thing, and that was love for nature. He adored wildlife. He would look after wildlife, would bring any kind of animal he could find into the house, draw it. Some drawing survives, and there's absolutely no talent showing at this time whatsoever. Well, he loved his paintings. This is not our business. We have got actually photographs of his earlier years. They didn't have photo cameras in those days. It just shows a little boy mucking about, and you can imagine that he'd be the same way. At the age of 16, our Vincent grows up, and through great family connections, he gets himself a job in Goupil's art gallery. Art dealers who've got offices in London, Paris and in Holland. This is just not working for me, I'm sorry. Vincent was the first child of 6. Altogether there was 3 boys and 3 girls. He was the eldest. 4 years after he was born, a brother was born to him called Theodorus, short for Theodorus, Theo. Theo loved his brother Vincent so much that when he grew up, at the age of 14 and a half, he joined the same company, the youngest employee that they had ever. But when he grew up, he saw that his brother had problems, and he promised that he would look after his brother for the rest of his life. Vincent, producing his art later on in his life, considered that everything he produced was the effort of the 2 brothers and not just of Vincent alone. And that was true. They wrote to each other twice a week, and all the letters survive. And that's how we know so much about Theo and, of course, Vincent van Gogh. Vincent is in Belgium, and by the time he gets the job, Vincent is actually sent over to London. We think of Vincent as a bit of an unruly person. He certainly had his problems. He certainly didn't listen to people. It was difficult to get on. And in the art world, he was indeed a very difficult person, because he himself, when he handled clients, would tell them that they shouldn't buy that picture because it's dreadful, you should buy this one, you've got no taste, etc., etc. So, of course, very soon he was kicked out of London, over to Paris, and in Paris he lost his job. They start a correspondence which continues to the end of the days. Theo proved to be Vincent's best friend, his moral and his financial supporter for the rest of their lives. Wow, let's just try that now. In 1869, our Vincent is found a position at Tollyville in The Hague. Then his brother joins him at Tolly, that was having the problems. And Theo comes and he works at the company as well. Whilst in London, our Vincent falls in love. And he writes to his brother, and on the brother's letter is this picture, which has even been drawn with the help of a ruler. Nothing special, but it just shows you where he's living, south of the Thames in central London. And he's talking about the pain he goes through. Of course, the landlady's daughter doesn't want him. The landlady throws him out of the house, and we're back to square one. Vincent's failures once more. He is lacking any kind of personality in his art this early in life, and of course that is not going to be his work. But whilst in London, he gets a taste for Charles Dickens. He knows all of his works. He's by now speaking perfect English. He concentrates on learning every day, every night. He gets to know the galleries. He knows the work of people like Jean-François Millet and Jules Breton, and these two will be very, very influential in his life later. He also gets this passion for learning English until he's totally fluent. Sure enough, he's not doing well in London because of the troubles he was having the way he dealt with his public. He goes to Paris and is chucked out of the company. He now decides that life is not for him, the commercial life. He wants to stay and serve people. He's always got this hang-up about his relationships with his father. From the beginning, his father was always looking for faults in the boy. Now, Vincent decides, like his father, he wants to devote himself to God. So Vincent is going to be a preacher. He goes to Holland. He goes to the university and they won't have him. He's got no Latin and he's got no classical Greece. So he goes to another school where he goes on a lower course. And he spends a few months at the course but he gets chucked out. And he begs for a position somewhere, and, well, he gets nowhere. So he goes back to England, and he gets a job of being an assistant preacher to a pastor in London. Actually, first thing he does is goes to Ramsgate, where he finds a job as a teacher, unpaid job. Dreadful digs, smelly, dirty, impossible, leaves that, goes to London and gets himself as an assistant preacher in a wonderful place called Chiswick, very upmarket now. And in fact, in Chiswick, near the railway lines, until 3 or 4 years ago, was the actual, the one on the right, the actual chapel where he helped to preach from time to time. The one to the left is Peter's, and that is still standing. But you can see that we get a lot of details from the letters to his brother, in Dutch, of course. A picture, as in this case, can say 1,000 words. 24-year-old, he goes to the university applications, nothing happens. So he decides to become the preacher, and they give him a job that nobody wants. He's unqualified, but he goes to serve people in the name of God. And he goes in a coal mining area of Borinage, and he starts being Christ-like. If somebody doesn't have a coat, Vincent gives him his coat. If somebody doesn't have anything to eat, he gets Vincent's food. He starts losing weight, he's disheveled, he's dirty. So of course even the church says, you're not good enough, you're not representing the church, we've got class to show the people, etc., etc. And of course, eventually he's kicked out. But in the meantime, he's producing 2 or 3 works in his spare time. This is the time of him being a preacher and starting to draw a little bit. Nothing promising here whatsoever. Coal shoveler. My grandson of 13 can do better than this, I'm sure. There's nothing in it except commitment. He is committed, he's working. He's still giving away anything that he has. The bishop dismisses him. Image of the church was more important than helping the poor in real terms. Whilst away from this area, he went to even a poorer area where he's not commissioned by the church, where he continues his self-imposed and independent ministry, which you can call misery, giving away all his money that he gets from his family and from his brother. Mind you, by now he's drawing more and more. His religious fervour, having been let down so often by the church as he sees it, starts to wane. And in discussion by letter with his brother, he decides that perhaps, I'll listen to you, Thea, shall we give art a try? Yeah, we'll give it a try then, shall we? So he decides that he's going to start into the world of the arts. But in those 2 years he has been visiting galleries, he has been reading books. Middle of the 19th century, people were printing books. And by now he knows the works of Rembrandt and he knows the work of Millet. Millet was the first of the people that went and painted and sketched outdoors direct from nature. And they liked the idea. Now, don't think of Vincent Gossafelli as a bit of a fool or a moron. Looking at this text, it tells you how Vincent is really a man who is thinking deep, is examining, is rationalizing, and he's trying to understand the artist and the way that they go. He's not a dunce by any means. Besides his Dutch, he speaks, of course, English perfectly, and French is quite fluent too. He is now also reading French literature and trying to understand it. In a letter to his brother, he is quite philosophic. There's a poetic romantic side to him too. And to his brother he says this, I'm in a rage of work, although for the moment it's not producing very much or any brilliant results, but I hope these thorns will bear the white blossoms in due time, that this apparently sterile struggle is no other than the labour of childbirth, because first the pain, then the joy. In this state of mind, he's lodging in this house, and it's here that he actually writes to Thea, says, right, I've decided I'm going to be an artist, no more dilly-dally. The poor area where he was lodging at the time bought this house. It is now a Van Gogh museum. Anybody's cashing in. If you've got a name, somebody stayed here, put a plaque to him, we'll open the museum. There's about 6 drawings in there, worthless, but he actually did stay there. In 1880, he's still being driven by this obsessive desire to serve God, but he's going to serve him through his art. And he writes here, to try to understand the real significance of what the great artists, the serious masters, what they tell us in their masterpieces, that leads to God. One man wrote authority in a book, another in a picture. So he still thinks he's got to serve God through his art. He's in a bit of a bad state, and he decides that he's going to go and do a bit of studying, so he goes to Brussels. He's befriended by an artist who at that time was known. I've never heard of him, and there's no work on him on the internet, and there's worth anything, but he had a school. A guy called Anton van Rijder-Rappard, who liked him for a while, but 6 months later chucked him out. A very difficult man, now, Vincent. His brother is now in the Goupil branch in Paris, and he's sending him money. So money is not a problem. There's not a lot of it, but he can live on it. So in return, Vincent writes, consults, explains all that he does, thinks and plans. Brother writes back, they're working together. These pictures a process of learning. He's copying people that he adores. This work on the left is by Millet. The work on the right is by Van Gogh. He's floating on that ground. He's not on the ground. He's not planted in the ground. The hat is much too big for the head. If that hat was on his head, it would be over his eyes. I can find 1,000 faults. But he's working. To a friend of his who criticized him about this, he said, "Your remark about the figure of the sower is that he's not a man who is sowing, but one who is posing as a sower. It's very true. But only after a year or a couple of years shall I have gained the ability to do a sower who is actually sowing." There, I do agree with you. Millet, again. And here's Van Gogh's version. That wheelbarrow to the right, the handles are gone. And if you was brought nearer in real life, studying that perspective, it'd be half the size of a proper wheelbarrow. There's 1,000 problems with the picture, but it doesn't matter. He's copying, he's learning, he is giving his time to the new thing that he's studying out of his art. Here we go again. That chap on the right, my God. But he's learning. These works are 9 years before his death. There's all that work to produce that's making us come together in these numbers for September to talk about a great artist, and there's no promises yet. This is a bit better, but again, the figures, especially say this figure here, he's floating on the ground. He's not on the ground, he's floating. It's science fiction. But he's working. I can't stress that enough. That guy's working day and night. Still life with beer mug and apples. A bit more like it. Very simple composition, lots of time, working. Enthusiasm. It shows a strong personality, and his colour effects are brilliant in this very simple composition. Another family disaster. Vincent falls in love with a great beauty who's only just lost her husband. She's just lost her husband. She's mourning, and he's declaring love for his cousin. She, of course, tells him where he can get off. She disappears from the parents' house where he's staying for the time. She goes away. 2 or 3 months later, he follows her to Amsterdam. And it's his uncle that opens the door. And the famous story, Vincent sees a candle in the hallway, and he puts his hand on the candle and says, "Just give me as much time as I can bear the pain of this frame." Of course, he's kicked out on his backside on the street, and that's the end of that love affair. So broken-hearted Vincent goes back to his art, and is now producing something promising, something a bit more like art. He still hasn't got colour, he's still not painting in oils properly, he's still just drawing. In Eton, He's back now, he's been chucked out of the art schools, he's been chucked away from Amsterdam, he's back with his parents. But with his parents, the relationship is as dreadful as ever. They have deteriorated so much that he left their house in a big storm because on Christmas Day itself, his father being a pastor, for some reason, Vincent said, I'm not going to church on Christmas Day itself. So he's back on the road again. He gets himself some digs, and from the rooftops of his, let's call it atelier, a studio, this is the view that he gets, and he's now painting in watercolor. And there's some promise beginning here. We can understand this picture. It's very badly designed. I mean, you know, come on. To have this amount of space taken up by this bit of roof here, it's quite ugly. But this is beautiful. We have the sign of a good artist. Now, I repeat myself again. Vincent falls in love. Vincent falls in love because he doesn't want to be alone. And he's feeling sorry for this woman who is also a part-time prostitute. She has a child. He decides that with her, he set up home. He's got a nest and he can look after his nest. Unfortunately, this woman goes back on the street. It's not just money, it's a way of life to her. And the famous woman, Cien, she's been painted time and time again. Here she is sitting down in front of the fire smoking a cigar. This is January 1882. She's got a 5-year-old daughter and was pregnant again. Some people say by Van Gogh. But the family finds out, this is very shameful for the great Van Gogh family, and he's made to put a stop to this. Look, he's escaped home, he's living alone, but he's now listening and he's doing what his family tell him. This is a very confused man. But before he parts company with it, does produce quite a few drawings of her, and these drawings are called, there's 2 or 3 versions of this, and it's called Sorrow. And this is the poor woman just sitting there, posing for him. Sorrow indeed. April 82. Because the family are threatening to put him in asylum as a madman for being with her, he breaks off the relationship. Fish drying barn, seen from a height, May 1882. From a different angle. Promising. These pictures you can live with. He goes to an area where there's a lot of dunes, where there's a lot of bad ground, people are digging peat, coal is found, etc. He's again with poor people, and he's drawing their misery. And he's catching it quite well. Chalk is used in this picture. Still life of the basket of potatoes. He hates painting indoors. Except for self-portraits. He tends to do 1 a month, Vincent. Selfies, as we call them today, so many of them. Churchyard, the rain. Well, I've got a capital I on in, I have no idea. Foreigners. This is rather nice, isn't it? Promising. Colour. This is the first colour picture we've seen of me. Real colour, vibrant colour. Bulb fields. We are definitely in Holland here. Gorgeous picture. I've even put a nice green frame around it for you. Now his peasants are on the ground, they're part of the ground, and the toiling actually has got sweat in it. You can feel these people are working, they're not just posing for an artist. And it's quick, he's catching something that he couldn't catch before. Remember this one? What a difference. That clumsy effort to the ones on the right, what a great difference. And he's still not making pictures that we know as Van Gogh as yet. These are rather nice. These are 2-minute sketches, but he's sketching all the time. He's got sketchbooks that he throws away, because he doesn't know his worth. Look, this guy is actually sweeping. Love his shoes. Anything and everything. Learn by sketching. Draw, draw, draw. And that's Van Gogh. That's our Vincent, working himself, really working. Anything and everything, day or night. A peat boat. You can understand, you can feel the heavy work. That is a barge on a canal being filled by a lady with a peat, put on the top. That picture, it's very simple, but it's caught a bit of a misery of the life of the people around him. Again, he writes to his brother and explains what he sees by including sketches. This will be done from a sketch that's got next to him from when he was in the field early in the day. So we copied the one on the right. Instead of putting a piece of paper in the envelope, just do a small sketch of the sketches done earlier. 1885, he tries to go back home again. And this is the family home. His father and mother have gone to a new parish of Newen, and they give him a shed that he can use as a studio, and everything's doing fine. And he produces a work that we all know, and that's the Potato Eaters here. There's 2 or 3 versions of it, but of course the famous one is this one. Some people call this the masterpiece of his life. I personally like the latter ones, but that is all personal. The thing about art is, whatever I tell you, that is my opinion. Don't agree with me if you don't think the same way. Picture I don't like would be a number 1. That's the beauty about art. People say to me, what's your favourite picture today or now? I can tell them one picture now as my favourite, and an hour later it'll be totally different because my mindset has gone to something else. I might be having a different view in the window, and my mind has gone to a different image that I've got in there, embedded. Vincent questions Theo, but this time 1885. Theo, you're the art dealer. I'm sending you a lot of my works. You're not selling any of them. Theo, why are you not selling my work? Why isn't my work selling, Theo? Theo is now in Paris. 1885, you've got all the big names, your post-impressionists, sand-impressionists painting away. Hundreds of them, some known, some unknown, but Paris is vibrant. The cheap area of Montmartre is full of artists painting outdoors, sharing studios, sleeping on the floor in each of the studios because they can't afford anything better. Later on, Picasso will be burying his works to keep warm in the bad winter because he couldn't afford a log for a fire. So in the paintings are not worth millions, you just threw in the fire to keep warm. So the vibrancy of Paris is something that Theo explains to Vincent. He says, Vincent, you've got to put some colour in your life. And Vincent is thinking about this, and he's thinking, maybe, do I not? Yes, maybe I should, maybe one. I'll probably end up in Paris. There's all these people there, there's colour, they've got ideas they're exchanging amongst each other. I will go to Paris one day. But he writes to his brother, as long as autumn lasts, for this picture, I shall not have hands, canvas, or colours enough to paint the beautiful things I see. So although he's thinking of the future, he's painting the past with all the passion he can muster. Anyway, he's thinking about Paris, but there's a lot of trouble in his life now again. There's a lot of gossip and innuendos over a model that's fallen pregnant, and people think it's Vincent doing his bad works again. And, in Holland, he's not liked much. most of the work that is painting the important finished work in Holland of that time is now lost. He gets up, he leaves for Antwerp, he can't stand being near his parents because of all the chit-chat going on around him. Lovely, isn't it? Making a promise already. He's still over in Holland. These are lovely pictures. He's taking colour and he's applying it sometime or other. October 1885, his father dies. Almost immediately after, he paints his father's big, thick, black Bible. He paints it just after his father's death. The hefty Bible was his father's. And next to the Bible, he puts his own copy, tattered copy of Zola, the naughty author of the day. Zola is joie de vivre, how to live today, and not how do you live by the Bible. And it's kind of a Bible for modern life, and the two books symbolize the different world's views of the father and the son. He described to Theo that this is a still life with an open, handsome, off-white Bible. It's bound in leather, it's got a black background. He's painted the background in something that is forbidden in art, pure black colour. Is he mourning his father, or is he experimenting in art? It doesn't work, yet in this picture it works. And notice there's a candlestick or a candle, but the candle has been snuffed out. There's a lot of symbolism here. The brothers have previously discussed the question of black at length, but he is trying to put to his brother, you know your rules about black? Yes, I can use it. Look, I can use black. The Bible is strangely enough turned to Isaiah 53, which talks about father and son relationships. I won't give you the whole passage of the Bible. We're waiting for some great art to come after this. But you can tell that Vincent is suffering in a certain way that his father's dead. The father was never his friend, or that's the way that he thought of it. He remembers that Theo said to him that, you know, your canvases are too dark and gloomy. So after being 3 months in Antwerp, that lasted just 3 months. In Antwerp, he does paint a couple of nice pictures. Remember his studying? But unknown to his brother Theo, Vincent packs a suitcase and just goes to Paris. When he gets to Paris, at the station itself, he sends a note to his brother to say, hey, I've arrived. Of course, the brother is welcoming. He puts him in his flat, and for 2 years, Vincent stays with his brother. And unfortunately, we lose trace of what's happening to him day by day, because now he doesn't have a need to write. All the discussion that was on paper before is now mouth to mouth. What I want to do now, though, is to break away from the art and just go into this, the theory of colours. 19th century is the Industrial Revolution. Steam engines are getting bigger and stronger. There's railways being put all over the place, Australia, America. America is taking English engines because they haven't got them organised to be made out there yet. Factories are producing textiles quicker than ever before. Lace is being made on looms. So why not develop colours? And the industry, the chemical industry of colours, was going haywire. A few years before this, they actually put colour in little tubes, like toothpaste tubes. So you can go out in the fields and paint, just squeeze a bit of colour out. You do not have to grind the colour and put a bit of oil in and put a bit of fixer in it or whatever. That's one colour. And if you want to use 8 colours, you do this 8 times over. And if you want to carry a colour with you to a field where you want to paint, you put the colour in a pig's bladder. And you've got 6 or 7 bladders with a string. And you're messing around. You've got colour in a tube. You just squeeze it out. It's painted. And it's bright and it's fresh. And all of a sudden, with all these new colours coming along, Vincent's life changes. He sees colour for the first time properly. I mean colour as in flamboyancy. So, here we go, some brand new colours. Unfortunately, the ones that got a star against are very unstable. So like I said, if you want to see what the Van Gogh looked at properly, find yourself an old art book that was printed in the 1950s and you'll get an idea just how vibrant they were. The ones we're seeing today are not as fantastic as they were originally. A friend, Tom Stevenson, sent me this, and I have to give him credit for it. It's an eye-opener. How UV is degrading colours today. I'm not going to go into this in this. It's not a science lesson, but I did learn that there is a lot of problems with colour today. Now, more or less part 2. Painting the sun. He's arrived in Paris. He's got himself in his brother's apartment. He's got himself cleaned up. He's got a fedora hat. He's got a nice coat on him. Look, he's very presentable. As soon as he gets there, the first thing he does is a selfie. Look at me in Paris now. Another selfie. The colours have changed a lot. There's a little vibrancy. There's little tiny brushstrokes that you haven't seen before. He's mixing with people who give him ideas. A chap called Surat, who paints a style called pointillism, pointing, is painting with 3 basic colours and put little dots. And his pictures are the size of that screen almost. And it takes months of working day and night to get a yard done. And he's a bit of an influence on Van Gogh. But Vincent said, well, yeah, it's a bit boring, isn't it? You know, the image I want to put them back up as quick. I don't want to do it in 5 days, I want to do it in 5 minutes. So he applies some of it, the technique, but in his own style. In Paris, Vincent meets people like Émile Bernard, Louis Anquetin, Paul Signac, Paul Gauguin, Paul Cézanne, Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, Henri Rousseau, Camille Pissarro, Georges Seurat. Lautrec actually paints a beautiful portrait of Vincent. He's experimenting with colour with different systems. All the conversations over absinthe, the forbidden alcohol that's a bit, gone. They exchange so many ideas and they give ideas. Vincent, all of a sudden, is a very respected man. Look at his work. My God, we never saw this before. This is fantastic. And Vincent doesn't believe that these people, they're taking the mickey out of him. Nobody else has said this about his work. All of a sudden, he's a bit of a star. He's enjoying the moment, but doesn't trust anybody. Anyway, his way of life, and that of his brother, is a bit of strange. The brother never says anything about it, but Vincent, being in the flat, nobody ever visits Theo, ever. Nobody comes to the front door. Vincent is too argumentative and too heavy. Vincent realizes this and decides that perhaps I should leave my brother go south where there's more sun and more colour. His mood swings and fiery character such. Most social as he therefore stayed in the cafes and in the studios. By the way, the selfie thing, between 1886 and 1889, he had produced over 30 oil paintings of himself, 30 selfies. Different styles, different experimentation. This is a Van Gogh. You wouldn't think so unless it was written on the bottom. This is a Van Gogh. This is a Van Gogh. Dreadful. To me, it's a Van Gogh. The guy's painting, is learning on the thing. This is a Van Gogh. Isn't that a surprise? That is futurism almost. It's absolutely brilliant. It's the celebration of 4th of July. 14th of July, sorry. The fall of the Bastille. God. He must have had a few before that was painted. Paris at that time, like London, like all the big cities of the West, was getting lots and lots of China from Japan. Ceramics, pottery from Japan. And most of it was wrapped in a paper that had images on it. Paper that nobody in China wanted. The ceramics people bought it because it was nice and hardy for wrapping in. And it was by an artist called Hiroshige. And all of a sudden, the boys in Paris thought, look at this god. Look at the drawings by this guy called Hiroshige. And they all started going to the ceramic center and said, you got any new pots? Can I have the wrapping paper, please? And then undo it and sort of, smooth it out, put it up on their walls. And they all became collectors, especially Vincent van Gogh, of this guy called Hiroshige. And this is Hiroshige. And this is Vincent working again from Hiroshige. He's Hiroshige-like. By the way, the Japanese adore his work, and the Japanese have to come to Europe, and if they haven't seen the 3 or 4 top Van Goghs, they haven't been to Europe. Remember, these guys are drinking absinthe, which has since been forbidden because it's a hallucinating drink. So of course, sometimes their minds would wander and experiment with colour, etc. Anyway, 1888, February 88, just less than 2 years before his death, exhausted Vincent leaves the bottles of absinthe and his brother and all the problems, and he decides to go south. And he's got this fantastic dream: if I go down south, the people who like me will come down and have a big artist colony, and we shall live a happy life forever and a day. Of course it doesn't happen, but that was a dream. He arrives down south where there's plenty of sun, where there's plenty of colour, there's plenty of light, in the winter, in the snow. And that's the first thing he produces. And it's lovely. This is Arles, 20 miles just north of the Mediterranean. Arles, a beautiful old Roman city. It's got a Roman amphitheatre, etc. Not one is ever painted by him. He doesn't care about people's remains, he cares about nature. Remember, this guy who loves his nature. Lovely picture, absolutely, all under the snow. Soon, he makes a deal to take this house over, but he hasn't got enough money, so 4 months after making the deal, he puts the first rent down and he actually moves in. And that is the famous yellow house, which now does not exist, unfortunately. And just behind the yellow house over here is a bar, cafe, that he paints with the starry night above, we'll see later. He gets down to Arles and his brother sends him a package. In the package, Japanese reed pens of different widths and different strengths. And the little ones pick up very little amount of ink, and the big ones more, because they give out more when you press them on the paper. And with very clever use. Look how big the strokes of the pen are here. And here the finesse. And it gives you perspective and business like nothing else. And he's producing magnificent works using the pen. This one actually belongs to the British Museum. And you, as part owners of this work, if you're British that is, you go to the British Museum, make an appointment, and they will put it in front of you, with the chap standing nearby with his hand on his back waiting for you to finish. And it can take an hour, it can take 2 hours, it's still be there protecting you, just in case you put your hand towards it. There's no plastic cover or anything in front of it. It's the real McCoy. When I showed it to my younger son, real life, he couldn't believe that you could do that. But I've spent quite a long time in front of this picture. There's unfortunately a mess here. He tried to rub out a basic drawing of pencil but the ink run, and it's a bit messy in real life, but here the artists have touched it up to show it to it. It's very clean. But look at the train, look at the old-fashioned steam engines. This is Van Gogh at his best. Now, he does the drawing, he also does the painting. The hills of Montmajour in the background. He goes to the seaside, like I said, it's only 20 miles away. And again with the pens and a bit of a wash, look at the work he's producing. This is water, they can feel it's water. Maybe expect a colour background of blue, but even the yellow works here. This is water. And those boats are now in the water. Absolutely gorgeous. In the house, he paints some pictures to brighten up his room. And this is bedroom. Very badly drawn, but beautifully presented. Nobody cares about the basic bad drawing. It doesn't matter. But we got the atmospherism, absolutely. There's the cafe near him, that's a very famous picture. I don't think you want too much information out of me when you've seen works like this. But I will tell you more about this one. Gauguin, in Paris, owes his brother a few favors. And he's pressed. And he says, okay, we'll do it. I'll do you a favor, Theo. I'll go down and live with Vincent for a while, see if I can make a go of this studio idea. And they tell Vincent that Gauguin is coming. Vincent is overjoyed. He decides that the room next door to his sleeping room is going to make it to Gauguin's room, and he's decorating, and it's cheering up. He paints 8 versions of the sunflowers. Now, if you think that Paris has got a problem with the picture by Leonardo, where tourists coming by the hundreds, Mona Lisa, this happens in the National Gallery if a tour bus of Japan comes in. You can't get near to it. They have to be near it. They have to be seen to be near it and take little photographs, secret. I was near it, look. But notice one thing. It's vibrant. It throws colour at you. It's like there's a light inside it. And we all know it's the sunflowers. But are these sunflowers, or they're just the withering bits of old sunflowers that have been dying in the room before you painted them? How many of the sunflowers have got leaves on them? No, this is just remains. No, these are just the seed pods. 2 or 3 have got the flowers around. This is just withering old seed pods, but we don't mind. The picture is so strong, we don't care about detail. And that is the strength of our friend Vincent. Anyway, researching Van Gogh, YouTube, there's about 30 or 40 or maybe more people have done what I'm doing today, giving a spiel about Van Gogh. There's so much, how do you say crap politely? There's so much rubbish out there. Gauguin and Van Gogh were lovers. It was Gauguin who cut off Van Gogh's ear. Blah, 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 blah. You have to be very careful what you read. You have to really, very carefully look for the truth. And halfway through searching the internet, I stopped looking at YouTube for the truth. The books only books, and especially the books that were written by Van Gogh and his brother Theo. Anyway, Gauguin is coming down. There's another version of the sunflowers. Remember, he did so many to put around the walls. There's another version. By the way, anybody who's done drawing, look at that vase. To me, it says ceramics. I find no fault with it. As an art teacher and I suppose a would-be art connoisseur, it's so badly drawn. Look, if you've got an ellipse, that is supposed to be doing a nice curvy round, so that line should not stop as an angle, it should be doing that. But do we care? No. Van Gogh can get away with it. It's given us the impression and it's given us the feel of the solidarity of a piece of porcelain. So we don't care about the finesses of drawing here, not one little bit. Now, as we all know, the relationship between our friends Van Gogh and Gauguin are dreadful, and he manages to cut off his ear. And of course it was his left ear. Right? Remember, he's looking at the mirror when he's painting this. So that was his left ear. He cuts off the ear, puts a bandage around his head, and he puts that in a package, and he goes to his favourite lady of the night and says, look after this carefully. A lot of wanks tell you that she opened up the package and she said, what's this here then? We don't know for certain. Anyway, it is the truth that he cut his own ear off. There was a program on BBC Two about the situation and doctors' reports from the hospital, etc., and it was definitely done after, what's his name, had stormed out of the house after a huge fight and argument. Van Gogh actually picked up a knife and went for Gauguin. But then again, Van Gogh has had syphilis for quite some time, and down south of France he also got gonorrhea. So the guy, his mind was medically going down the pot. Remember, we've only got a year left of his life now. In fact, this was done the year that he died. More and more of his self-portraits. He's so down now. In 1889, he declares himself as insane, and he voluntarily enters an asylum in Saint-Rémy. And inside the asylum, the doctor realized there was a talent here and a man who needed helping. So he put him into 2 rooms. One for sleeping and the other for painting in. And he did a lot of work through the bar windows of the nature outside. This is the asylum inside, and some of these works were painted from the window. The serenity was broken with his delusions of being poisoned. He had voices in his head. In the end, they had to lock him up in the asylum, not using the second room, and he was there without books, paints, or tobacco. Signac, bless him, came from Paris to see his painter friend, and he went to Vincent's digs. He broke in, because he hadn't been paying rent for a while, and he saved us many paintings which had not rotted. What had got to them? He saved many, and the rest were just thrown away. Anyway, the works were packed off, the ones that were not damaged, and were sent off to Brother Theo. One of the canvases was given to Signac as a thank you very much, my friend. He paints these irises of 1889, absolutely scrumptious, aren't they? And of course we've got this one, Starry Night, again painted from the cells. Very sensitive, calm, sensually mixed, and certainly with a rich imagination. Theo was sent this picture, which he sent on, together with the previous picture showing you the irises, to the Salon of the Independence, where they aroused great interest and bewilderment. Paris had never seen works like these. This is something new and shocking. I mean, people in the art world, your connoisseurs, etc., to see this, goodness gracious me. But amongst them, there was one called The Red Vineyard, and that actually got sold. And in Vincent's lifetime, he had sold the one picture. I'll show it to you later. I think standing in front of this original for 10 minutes should be on everybody's bucket list. You have to experience this picture to believe just how sensitive it is and how it can just draw you in. My wife knows that I've got a fixation on a picture in the Courtauld Institute in London, and most times I go to London once or twice a year. I have to go to the Courtauld and I stand or sit in front of that picture. Sometimes I don't even look at it, but I have to be near it because I'm not near it, I'm inside it. It's the girl at the Folies de Bergère. I'm getting away from my talk now. You have to walk inside the picture to really get them inside you. You have to be inside, you have to be together. And these pictures are easy to do that with. Look at that, without any framing. You can feel it. You can touch it. Sitting over there, you can touch it. It's like it's with you. I hope. September 1889. Olive grove. We live amongst olives. Believable. Another one. But the activity is showing you is also mental stress. This one is gorgeous. Nighttime on their own. It works beautifully. He is now a painter proper. He's not experimenting. He sees, he records. He records what he sees and what he feels. And that is the difference between an artist and a weekend painter. He records what he feels as well as what he sees. And this is the thing you want to see in real art. Look at this. Look, that guy is definitely pushing a plough. He's there now. He's definitely an artist. He's recording what he's saying. And that, the torment inside that man. Anyway, he's more or less had enough of ours. He's distressed. He's writing to his brother and says, please, what can I do? What shall I do? Unfortunately for him also, he gets the news that his brother Theo is going to be a father. He was recently married, lovely little family, and Vincent knows that he's now going to be a burden. His brother is sending him money which he should be spending on his wife and his son. To celebrate the birth of his nephew, he paints this beautiful picture and he sends it to his nephew. His nephew, sorry, his nephew is to be called Vincent. Vincent is very touched and he tells his brother off. I don't think he does it with oath of power. He says, brother, surely he should be called after a father, Theodorus. And the brother says, no, Vincent, this is Vincent. January 31st, 1990, actually 1989, silly me. January 1990 is falling to bits inside his grave. My typing mistake. Theo's wife gives birth to their first child, a son named Vincent. Uncle Vincent, I've told you how he feels. He paints this picture of almond in blossom, the child's nursery. And he writes to Theo that he's very pleased with the result, and this picture will be enjoyed by the young boy. A chap, poet, art critic and painter, writes about Vincent at this time, and a cutting is sent to Vincent, and the guy had said, having seen his pictures at some exhibition in Paris, he will never be understood except by his brothers, the true artists, the happy ones amongst the little people, the very little people. Vincent was pleased with this. In his modesty, complained to the author that he had overestimated his worth, that Monticelli and Gauguin were more important than he was. He then promptly got a canvas, wrapped it up, and sent it to the man as a present. What else can you do? Worthless things around him, so many of them, why not give one away? Wish I was there at the time. This rain. Cypresses, June 1890. These peasants are resting, these peasants are tired. Anyway, by the time of spring of 1890, the lonely Vincent pleads with his brother he's got to be moved north to be nearer to his brother and to his nephew. He wants to be near the family. He's feeling lonely, he's feeling the end. Vincent leaves Saint Remy on May the 16th, 1890. He had produced 11 pictures in 2 weeks, each of a superb quality. In the 444 days that he spent down south, Vincent had painted 200 finished paintings, 100 major drawings. He had written over 200 letters to Theo. This is why we know so much about him. He goes up to Auvers-sur-Oise. He stayed with Joanna and Theo in Paris for a few days, inspecting with great interest the hundreds and hundreds of his works, which crammed the apartment that he'd been sending week by week to his brother. Upper Theo was very cheerful. Despite this underlying anxiety, and Vincent took great pleasure in seeing and playing with his 6-month-old nephew and godson. But he knew he had to move out. So he went to Auvers-sur-Oise, and this chap, Dr. Gachet, a great friend of artists and an amateur artist himself, takes Vincent on board. He's his mentor, he's his listener, he's his friend, and he paints this wonderful picture of the doctor, more or less as soon as he arrived. And Vincent made a note that doctors, he's as weird as he himself was, but they became great friends. He liked Dr. Gachet. He said, I quote here, "The doctor was probably as nervously unstable as myself. He took a room in a cafe nearby and he went to the doctor's every single day socially. Within this month he painted, within the month of arriving, this was painted. So was this, so was this. The heavy colour of the south is now gone, but there's still a lot of colour. He paints in the rain, he paints the local river, the town hall, Bastille Bay. He paints cottages around him, but of course, vibrant, aren't they? I suppose I'm overdoing with my time here. Do you know how can you cut down on Vincent van Gogh? I just apologise to you for being too long at the end of it. But now I'm just explaining myself. I couldn't cut any of this out for you. So, if you have fallen asleep, you haven't missed much. If you have watched it all the time, you've gained a lot. In July, his despair was eating at him for no apparent reason. He had a major falling out with Dr. Gachet. Theo wrote to his wife, who was visiting in Holland. He said, I have had a letter from Vincent. It seems very incomprehensible. When will there come a happy time for him? Vincent is so thoroughly good. He's now very much approaching the end. This is the tree roots, wheat field and the clouded sky. This is just a few days before his very end. He now worked tirelessly. His work shows a progressively tormented mind and spirit. His average of one finished canvas a day, plus lots and lots of drawings, can be added to the bargain. The haunting symbolism felt in the wheat fields and the threatening skies with crows. has made it overshadow other works of the periods. Like some Grim Reaper, its foreboding mood suggests a calamity, a kind of finality. We think this is the last picture that he produced. The crows are very disturbed here. On that day, he'd taken a gun with him. So was it the sound of the shot that disturbed the crows? Vincent, so inept, he goes to the fields to kill himself. And guess what? He shoots himself here. And then he packs up his box of colours. Everything's got around him, his little easel. He goes back to his digs. People say, what's wrong? Ah, this is nothing. I've shot myself. And he goes up to his digs. Of course, they all panic. They get a message over to brother very quickly. And Sunday is when this happened. On Tuesday, the 29th, he died. Vincent left the table of precautions immediately after lunch, went to work, blah, blah, blah. Oh, nothing, just wounded and shot. He went upstairs. Mr. Ravo followed him to his room where Vincent showed the wound to his chest and admitted he had shot himself. He only added, I only hope that I haven't botched it. At the trial of Dr. Gachet, Vincent, lying in his bed, was quietly smoking a pipe, and he said, I'll do it all over again. Theo was informed and came soon after, and he stayed with his brother till the day. Vincent told his brother, don't cry. I did it for the good of us all. When Theo tried to comfort his brother, there was a good chance he would survive. Vincent simply said, La Trieste durera, meaning there is no end to sadness. Vincent died in Theo's arms at 1 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, 29th of July 1990. It had taken him 40 painful hours to die. But not one complaint and not one moan. At the funeral, amongst the mourners were Lucien Pissarro, Emil Bernard Pertangai. Pertangai was the colour supplier and a great friend of Vincent's. On his coffin were yellow flowers, his favourite colour. Close to the ground beside the coffin was his easel, his camp stool and his paintbrushes. That simple stone is against the wall, and behind the wall are fields. Soon after, about 6 months later, his brother also died. And he's buried somewhere in Paris, but the sister-in-law, Theo's wife, decides this is wrong. And a few years after his burial elsewhere, she has the body exhumed, and she has the two brothers lying together. And they lie together still. The graves are not attended especially. People, although there's hundreds and hundreds of visitors, they're told not to touch anything. Let nature, that he adored so much, just live amongst the stones. Here rest Vincent and Theo, forever brothers true. Sure enough. Between them, they had produced 1,800 works of art. Remember, Vincent insisted that whatever he painted together with his brother. Because everything was decided, narrated, decided on, discussed together. Later on, in 1973, Vincent William van Gogh, the grandson of Theo, opened up the Van Gogh Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, a brand new building, although the museum had been there before. All the works the family had were given to the nation on a permanent loan, which means that nothing can be sold ever. amongst the works of Vincent were works that were given to him by his friends, the painters. There was another Van Gogh who made headline news way after our friend Vincent, and that was November 2004. A 47-year-old Dutch film director-producer, Theo Van Gogh, was assassinated while riding his bicycle by an Islamist extremist. His crime? He analyzed the treatment of women in Islam. By the way, Dr. Gasher, the painting you saw earlier, it sold for $82.5 million in 1990. The irises of 1890 also sold, and they sold for this amount, $54 million, more or less. This one was sold, the only one sold, actually sold in Vincent's lifetime. It was sold for 400 French francs, which is about, say, $1,000 in today's money. And it was bought by a rich painter friend who liked Vincent's work. Vincent van Gogh, may his tormented soul rest in peace. Indeed. I went on a bit, didn't I? And I apologize, it was a bit too heavy sometimes, but there was nothing else to cut out. I love the guy so much. His work is just, you have to understand him to love him. You have to know him to love him. I think now, if you showed me any Van Gogh picture, I can more or less tell you the month and the year it was painted. It's been a bane in my life. And in a way, I'm glad to get rid of it. Yeah, as we speak now, I'm doing 4 lectures. I'm writing 4 lectures at the moment. On my Kindle, I've got 5 books on the. The older you get, the less time you have for all the things you want to do. Any questions?
If he only sold one painting in his life, how is it that so soon afterwards there are millions upon millions?
Until recently.
Well, in 1897, one of them went for how many million?
Oh yeah.
But why is it in his life only one was painted and one was sold for only 1,000 rubles?
Life is so unfair. It wasn't found out. It wasn't fashionable. Listen, Picasso's burning his pictures to keep warm. And I tell you what, Picasso's a god as well. There's a lot of CRAP in his work. There's a lot of rubbish. But my God, the good is good. I still hold that Picasso was the best draftsman that was ever born. He just didn't waste time by shading and making perfect, because in his time, it was photography. He didn't have to be Leonardo da Vinci to make things perfect by drawing. He could do it. He's proved he can do it. It's a waste of time. There was one picture I showed when I was doing Picasso 2 or 3 years ago, and it's the bum of a young lady. 5 lines. 5 lines. 5 lines. In those 5 lines, you can see the iliac crest. You can see where the hip joint goes into the cradle. You can see that she's standing on the right leg and that the left leg is relaxed. In 4 or 5 lines, ask Picasso. You have to find him, to love him, to buy him. If you don't love him, you don't buy him. It's just like that. Anyway.
What did they die of, the 2 brothers?
Both from syphilis.
I wondered that was the case, yeah.
Both of them. A fact, 19th century, most men and women, they reckon 25 to 30% had some kind of venereal disease. Most. Doesn't matter if you're a goody-goody or a buddy-buddy, it got you. And they both died from the same venereal disease. Look, thank you for coming in such a great number for the first day. This is the start of our 11th year, as you all know. And after the next talk, weather permitting, in the little park, whilst Brian is doing his talk, I shall disappear so he doesn't know where I am. You're not listening, are you, Brian? And I shall set up a small table with some wine and a bad can of Coke for somebody as well. We'll have some niggles and something to just to say we're starting 11th year. And thank you to Brian for 10 years of this fantastic work. He started all this stuff. So I came as a ready-made a year later. You know, everything was prepared, we just jumped on the bandwagon. Thank you everyone again for coming. Thanks very much.
Thanks very